real solutions to money, relationships, wellness, and more. Shine a light onto your day and into your life. Power Your Life with Dr. Joanne White.
Welcome to Power Your Life. I'm Joanne White, your host, and my first guest is a New York Times best-selling author who wrote the Silver Linings Playbook, which later became an Oscar-winning film. Now Matthew Quick is back with a new novel called The Good Luck of Right Now, and he joins us via Skype to tell us all about it. Welcome, Matthew.
Thanks for having me today. I really appreciate it.
And I appreciate you. You and I had a little bit of a conversation, and you said to me that Robin Williams was an inspiration to you. How was that?
Yeah, I saw Dead Poets Society, I think when I was a junior in high school, and I was just so taken by the performance. It was one of the things that really made me want to teach and put some good into the world. So he definitely was a huge inspiration.
And you did teach. You taught English, and you did a lot with young adults, and you even have some books for young adults with some topics that are kind of pretty deep in terms of suicide and killing a friend and also sexual abuse. How are those books received by your young adult audience?
You know, I always say, you know, if you give kids a chance to tell the truth, if you give kids a chance to talk about these things, they always take you up on those chances. When I taught high school English, I found that kids were desperate to talk about the heavy issues, you know, the things that they were struggling with. And you know, when I was a teenager, I went to literature to figure out things that other people wouldn't talk about. You know, I didn't know it at the time, but I was definitely struggling with depression and anxiety. Nobody talked about those things, but I went to literature to find peers, to find answers, to feel a little bit less alone in the world. And so I hope that's what teens get from my reads too. And the fan mail that I get from them seems to suggest that that's true, that's happening.
How did you cope with your depression, Matthew?
When I was a teenager?
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time alone. I listened to a lot of very sad music. I had a red notebook that I used to just write in all the time, and I didn't realize it at the time, but now looking back in retrospect, I'd say I was doing art therapy. That's where I go. I go to the page to take all the chaos in my mind and you know, try to make order out of it. And I did that kind of intuitively as a teenager. Now I do it very consciously as an adult.
I understand that as being a writer myself. You also once said in an interview that if you weren't laughing and crying when you were writing, you wouldn't finish the project. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to emote when you write. You know, you have to feel it. I think it was Robert Frost that said, no tears in the writer, no tears in the reader. And, you know, and I used to work with teenagers diagnosed with severe autism, and the turnover of the staff was quite high. And anytime someone came in, you know, a new person to work with our students, we always watched to see if they would laugh on the first day. Not laugh at our students, of course, but laugh at the absurdity of the situation that we were given every single day. And if that person laughed, we knew that they would show up to work the following day. If they never laughed once during the day, they would never come back. And I think that's true of a lot of things in life. You know, you've got to find a way to emote, a way to express your feelings, and a way to kind of laugh at the absurdity of it all. When I first started writing, you know, everyone told me, you'll never be published, you know, the novel's dead, you'll never make a living. And, you know, you had to laugh at that a little bit or you would never keep going.
So I totally agree, because laughter is, and especially laughing at yourself, is so essential to be able to move forward. The characters that you've created, Pat in Silver Linings Playbook and Bartholomew in your new book, do you in any way represent them, or is there a piece of you in those characters?
Yeah, I think so. You know, I think any writer, especially a fiction writer, would be lying if they didn't admit that you know, there's a little piece of us in all of our characters. But I've always felt very much as someone who is kind of on the fringe, on the outside, and I can blend in when I need to. You know, I give a lot of talks, I give a lot of presentations. You know, I taught for many years. But I'm somebody who generally feels most comfortable alone and kind of on the fringe, or, you know, in one-on-one situations. So I've always felt as though I've kind of lived this double life where I'm a fake extrovert, but a true introvert. And it surprises people. You know, a lot of my students, when I talk about my depression very openly now, they'll say, my former students will say, Q, when you were teaching high school, like, there's no way, like, you know, you're this guy that was upbeat all the time. You're always, you know, giving these motivational speeches, and that's one side of me, but there's this other side of me that feels very much like a misfit or a freak, or, you know, somebody who doesn't fit in easily. I can put a mask on and blend into society, but you know, when I go to the page, I try to tell the truth, and that's one of the places where I feel that I can be me.
In your new book, tell us something about it that is something about synchronicity, or just about the way that everything fits in that's really very interesting. I don't know how many people really are familiar with this like they are with Silver Linings Playbook.
Yeah, I mean, in the book, Bartholomew Neal, he becomes obsessed with Richard Gere. The whole book is letters to Richard Gere, and he becomes, you know, kind of interested in Buddhism and in duality and opposites. And so the book plays with this idea that, you know, anytime something good happens somewhere, something bad has to happen somewhere else to even it out. And, you know, for me in my life at the time when I was writing this book, it was right as Silver Linings was starting to be filmed, and a lot of really good things were happening for me. And I felt, to be honest, I felt a tremendous amount of guilt in some ways, even though I'd worked hard and I try to be a good person, and I felt as though I'd earned those successes. But there are a lot of my writing friends who are wonderful people, kind human beings that worked just as hard as I did, in some cases for decades longer, who had never had those experiences. So I was thinking a lot about fortune and good luck and opposites. And, you know, it was a way for me to kind of think about, you know, the duality of life, and why certain good things happen to certain people, not other people, and what do we do with that? You know, because I've certainly had low times as well, and kind of balancing the low times in my life with the high time, and you know, just trying to take a look at the ups and downs that we all go through as human beings.
Thanks. We'll be right back with author Matthew Quick right after the break, so stay with us.